Thank you for coming. We've done a few of these now. It's a really good opportunity for us to really tell as much as possible about Hotpod franchising and what it's all about. As a franchisee, you get your territory. So every franchisee has exclusivity of their own individual territory. And usually, we've got a piece of software which maps out different territories, and that's done basically on population density and demographics. Second thing you get is you get your kit. And so, unfortunately, that doesn't mean everything, but it does mean your pod, basically, your space to run the classes in, which is obviously completely consistent wherever we are around the world. And that's not just the pod, but it's all the bits around it. So everything, fans, heaters, humidifiers, sound systems, lights, which basically allows you to be able to create the space you want wherever you are. Throughout the year, we will do trainings with our franchisees. And so every 2 weeks, we do a hangout on different topics, for instance. So we might do which is a Google Hangout, so it's a video call, basically. And we do a tutorial online with all our franchisees. And we might teach them anything from, how to do great photography for social media, or how to best to pitch and work with sports teams, or whatever it might be, like a huge range of topics that generally are driven by the franchisees. Fourth thing is the brand. Having the more locations we have, the stronger the brand becomes. And ultimately, when you combine that with the training and expertise, it does have a massive impact. It gives people that reassurance. It gives people that that cut through, really, that they know what they're getting and they know that's been sort of verified by others. And so that is certainly, and is increasingly so, a really big part of the value add, I think. The fifth thing is a kind of ecosystem. We've always been quite a forward-thinking, innovative, sort of tech-enabled business, and we will always think outside the box to try and genuinely just make our franchise businesses better businesses. And in the simplest sense, that's things like a booking system and a website, and it means that when you go and start, you don't need to go and pay for a website, but it's much more intricate and kind of detailed than that. So we have things like, we have a data dashboard that we're working on at the moment, which has live data for all of our franchisees, so we can give, really, really up-to-date, commercial support and reporting, and we can see exactly what's happening in everyone's business, so that when you spot a trend or a weakness or a strength, you're able to communicate to your franchisee directly and say, this is a bit of an issue, let's work on this, what can we do here, etc. Things like our music app's a big one. What we did is we actually developed our own music app and developed our own music library, basically. And so we work directly with independent artists, and that's the music you hear in the classes. And as a result, franchisees don't need to pay the £500 a month. They just instead make a small contribution that's £30 a month, and that goes directly to the artists to pay for the licensing. Finally, and probably I think if you spoke to most franchisees, they'd probably say most importantly, is the support. I would be impressed if there's anyone else any other franchise businesses that put in as much kind of effort and just have as much the higher level of support as we do. And I think it's something we really, really, really bend over backwards to do, and we work incredibly closely with our franchisees. And I think, as I said, you have a lot of people who will expect probably that you sort of come into a training and get a handbook and that's about it. But genuinely, in some instances, we speak to lots of our franchisees every day. Particularly when they start, we will definitely speak every day. And even on an ongoing basis, if people have been running it for years, we will really, really, really be there to support them. It is unusual, and I think the reason it's unusual in reality, and we always hold up a hand about this, is because of this. And most franchise businesses have a very standard franchise model, which is tons of money up front, very little on an ongoing basis. The percentage is very low. And we've sort of said, right from the start, we said, what makes sense for franchisees who are generally yoga instructors who want to go and run a yoga business? They need support. And I think they really, really value that support. And so what we did is we said, let's make the upfront fee as low as we possibly can. And let's then balance that by having a higher fee that enables us to provide really, really, an extraordinary level of support. If you're trying to categorize it into three main areas, you can kind of say, on the one side, as I said, if you take a sort of mid-tier city or big town and you put on 18, 20 odd classes a week and they're relatively full, that's vaguely what your business will look like. If it's a bigger single location, ultimately if you're running a bigger timetable of classes, 25 to 35 classes and they're full classes or pretty full classes, then you've got a strong opportunity to build a business that does, as much as 25 grand a month, as I said, more than that. Beyond that, then you do have a lot of franchisees who have multiple franchises. And inevitably, if you have multiple franchises, you've got an opportunity to grow a bigger business. I've split this out as well by also flagging that so this might be a model, for instance, for non-instructor franchises. So those ones before have assumed you're an instructor, and what generally happens, so most of our franchisees are instructors, but not everyone. What tends to be the case when the difference between the two is that when you start particularly, you have a relatively small timetable of classes, and if you're not an instructor, you need to pay an instructor, and so therefore your margins are just slightly lower. So critically, is it right for you? You can look across our franchises around the country, around the world. They're a huge range. You know, the age range itself is massive. The career range, like there is absolutely everything. No, there is not at all a common thread in any way. And even the types of people, you know, not everyone is the same at all. So it really does vary. But I think there are some common traits certainly that make a really great franchise and make a great franchisee and a really good working relationship with us. We have this absolute vow, and it's one of the ones that I think is the most important, is that we will always ensure that we are getting better so that our franchisees are getting better. So like for me, the most important figure, the most important number I look at is the figure that I talked about earlier, which is the average franchise, how much better is it getting every year? Because what I don't want to happen, and what I think most franchise businesses, as I said, generally will give you a business in a box and say, off you go. Our view is we want to continue making our franchisees better and better and better and better. Once essentially you've got your business plan, you're happy with your business plan, we usually will always meet to talk through that in person, get to know you a little bit, get to understand what your plans are. And then when you're happy with it and when we're happy with it, then you'll confirm or commit to a franchise, you'll sign the franchise agreement and schedule for the next training. So normally there needs to be an 8-week minimum basically between signing and launch. Usually in reality it ends up being longer, but it does vary depending on, more than anything else, depending on property. And so usually I would say after training you want to allow at least 8 weeks, and that's actually just to get everything in place and ready and begin to build out our kind of launch plan. And so launch plan overall, you want to just make sure you absolutely nail and get it right.
I was wondering, in general, with how many teachers, aside from yourself, do you start with?
It was just myself to start with.
Okay, so all the classes,
Yeah.
and then one more, and then
I don't know.
How many have you got now?
10.
10, yeah. And so I'd say, how many did you start with? You're probably more normal in that Siobhan launched a long time ago, and now we would always say you've got to launch. You're normal in a lovely way, but normal today. How many teachers did you launch with?
2. So 2, and then.
And you?
Now,
Yeah.
And then I have 6, I think.
Yeah. And so generally, I remember having conversations at the time, you could have done with some more teachers to start with. And so usually we'd say, generally people launch the timetable of like 18, 20 classes kind of thing. And we'd say you probably want, if you're a teacher, you probably want another 3 or 4 for sure. And usually you've probably got a couple of teachers who are your core teachers who are teaching quite a lot of classes. And then you've got a couple of teachers who are cover teachers, and also they're trained up ready so when you expand your timetable. Because what happens a lot, as Liberty said, you start with 18 classes and you're running 27 a few months later. So you need extra teachers there on hand. And it's just really important to have a good support network of teachers around you.
And how does it work for franchisees abroad, outside the UK? So they still have to come one day to London for their training?
Yeah. And so usually what franchises will do when they launch is they will find their team and then usually just sort of go over together. And it's actually kind of quite a nice exercise because they probably, if you're launching in a country where they don't have a lot of exposure to the brand, it's a really good introduction to the brand, and they get to experience a class, come to HQ or one of our studios in London.
It seems many ways to skin the property.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a big range of types of property. Like you've got, like Liberty has it in an office. You've got a lot of people who have retail, like shop front kind of things like this. You've got lots of people in industrial spaces, and ultimately, one of the advantages of the pod is you've still got the same perfect environment to run a class, and then it's about transforming the space around you in a cost-effective way and making it a nice experience and kind of studio, and that's what we'll help with, and that's really up to the budget of people. If someone goes into it saying, I got 20 grand to spend, then it opens up your opportunities and you can look at a bigger array of properties. If you go into it saying, I've really only got 7 grand to spend, then you need to think very carefully about which properties you get, because you can't do a full fit out with £7,000, and so it will, it will depend.
At Liberty, did you convert an office space into what you needed?
Yeah.
You're leasing the office space, so you haven't bought it.
Yeah, so it used to be Sheila's Wales call centre. And it was horrible. It was really horrible. And yeah, so we completely redid everything, put like showers and stuff in. And yeah, so that's on a rent basis.
And they let you do that, but you also have to cost factor that in all the setup costs, because that's something you don't come much in about how people come up with not only obviously the franchise fee, which I understand is very good value and everything you offer, but then obviously budgeting for all of that's going to be, it's always going to be circa 20k as a minimum by sounds.
It completely depends. So you've got a lot of people who pay a lot, have paid a lot less than that, and I would say that's definitely the top end. So most people haven't paid 20 grand on a fit out. Yeah, all in on a fit out, I would say. Some people.
I don't mean the fit out, I mean everything.
Oh, no. So yeah, no. So I would say 20 grand for a fit out would be the top end of a fit out.
No, I meant with the franchise.
Yeah. So no, and so yeah, so it will completely depend. As I said, it just depends on the property and the individual. And so it's something we always make really clear when we go through business planning processes with people, and even in our franchise materials, it makes it very clear that you have to allocate enough budget for fit out. But it is true, we have franchisees who've got lucky and found a place with showers, and actually they put in a table and some nice lighting and chalkboard on the wall and a few other bits, and they spend a few £1,000s rather than 20 grand on top of it. And so it just varies from person to person.
Cool, thank you.
Hello.
Hello. So I only went to one lesson, but it did seem like quite energy consuming. And I was wondering how you answer the ecological concepts.
Oh, energy consuming from an environmental perspective? Yeah, sure. So I mean, for a hot yoga studio, they're incredibly energy efficient, and so we use 10 kilowatt hours per class, basically, which relative to a hot yoga studio is incredibly efficient. And so you can imagine, the shape of it alone means that you're consuming a lot less energy, and the heaters we use are very, very low energy relative to most other heating systems. And so it's something, we've actually just done quite a lot of work on it, on the sustainability of our operations, basically. And we've got it on our website, we start with the honest premise that running a hot yoga studio is more environmentally impactful than not running a hot yoga studio, or than running a non-hot yoga studio, but we will always try and do it in the most environmentally friendly way. And so it goes from anything from the energy suppliers that we use that would be all green energy supply, to the packaging that we use, to the way we ship our products, to anything. So it's something that's always front of our mind when we're making decisions as a business. But as I said, you start with the honest premise that you're running a hot yoga studio that consumes electricity for sure.
Actually, another question: has any franchisee already decided to stop, or how does it work? Does the franchise actually dies, or does it continue to actually?
There's no death. So franchise terms are 3 years, but then they renew at the end of 3 years if both parties are happy and there's no renewal fee. And so Siobhan's coming up for her second renewal. So far, everyone who's got to that point has renewed. So we've got 100% renewal rate, which is obviously quite a good sign. We've only had 2 franchises ever that have closed, I think. Yeah, 2 franchises ever that have closed. And those are both, ultimately the truth is they were businesses that just didn't, they were franchisees that didn't really work. And I think, it's something we've learned for sure. And as I said before, it's not for everyone. Generally, both those 2 actually were in really good markets that you could build a really good business. The people just had the franchisees, and they would say this themselves, it's not unfair on them at all, just were really badly suited for running those franchises. And it was really sad, and we worked our arse off to make sure that they were, set up in the best way possible and running the best business possible, but it's not for everyone. The other thing that is an option as well is that franchisees can sell their franchise. So we've had a couple of people who've successfully sold their business if they want to go and do something else, or they've been doing it for a while. And so that's something that we will support on as well, providing the incoming franchisee is a good franchisee and has a good plan and everything.
Oh, just on that note, do you have to be, before you, not that it's the plan, but if you were to want to sell it, do you not have to be the minimum of 3 years before you can, or can you do it at any point?
You can do it at any point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's your business to sell. Like you have an agreement which is, you have a license to operate this business in this territory, and you can sell it, and you dictate the price of it as well.
It's not locked in or anything
No.
like that. Perfect.
No.
Yeah, what class does the location need to have?
D2. So we've done it. I mean, we've done it with franchisees probably 20 times. I mean, we've done it ourselves. All but one of our studios in London, we've done ourselves. And most of our franchisees have done change of uses. Good thing about D2 and our usage is that it's quite a soft change. It's not noisy, it's not smelly, it's not, it's something that it's got community use, and so it tends to be that people like D2 change of use. And it's something like, again, we help with a lot. Like, we've got a planning consultant who can do the planning, who we can recommend. We've also done a lot of them, so it can help. If you want to do it yourself, we can help and support on that as well.
And what's the average square footage of the location?
Probably about 2,000 square foot. So the smallest probably is about 1,500. It's basically the smallest you can do. But it slightly depends on configuration, where you want showers, things like that. But then up to probably, yours is pretty big, isn't it? I don't know how big it is. Yeah.
On that note, how many showers is the minimum? How many toilets is the minimum?
One toilet's fine generally. Showers kind of varies. It does depend from place to place. I think if you're in a very densely populated area with lots of offices around you, you probably want a good number of showers. If you're in a residential area, normally we'd say 3 is absolutely fine. We've got 3 here, and generally in the morning they use quite a lot. Lunchtimes they used a bit. Evenings they're not, because people just go home. So it kind of varies, but it's definitely worth having a few. And so 3 is probably about the minimum, I'd say.
Yours are communal, aren't they?
Communal in that they're all in. Yeah, they're not male and female separated, but they are all. It's not just a free for all.
In terms of locations outside London, what do you find works better for be somewhere where there's parking, or to be somewhere maybe say some medium size, to be inside the city or a little bit further out?
So it really depends. I mean, basically, we will work with a franchisee to make their business work wherever it is, and your plan adapts accordingly. Some places, parking is absolutely critical. I remember that being an issue with you, is that in Solihull, parking was a massive pain in the arse, and you're very lucky because you've got an enormous car park. And in some places, it's just not an issue. It's something in London, obviously, we don't even consider it parking. In some places, I say it's really, really important. But as I said, either way, there's not really like a strong correlation of saying city centres work better than, residential areas, or industrial areas work better than. They do vary a lot, and we will help build a plan and a marketing plan and a business, basically, that fits the market that it's in. That's probably not that helpful, essentially, but that is the truth. Hello.
Question probably more for the franchisees. How do you manage time off, vacations, or if you're unwell, you need
You can go with this.
Pretty well actually now, because you've got everything on your laptop and phone for a start. Once you've got a good team of teachers anyway around you, you have to have that. It's been absolutely fine. I just take everything with me. Marketing's all sorted before I go. And I'm just in contact by phone, and there's nothing ever goes wrong.
So basically, your main focus is to make sure you've got all the classes filled with teachers, basically.
Yeah.
And just manage that kind of rota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you taken a holiday yet, Liberty?
I went away for 3 days.
There you go. The good life.
But yeah, no, I would say exactly the same thing. I think that, like Max said earlier, we're paying teachers more, and they genuinely are like
You do get that
more invested. Yeah.
How did you build up your teaching supply, basically, in your areas? Was it easy or not?
I was quite lucky. I still am. They actually come to me.
Yeah.
Without me having to go and find
Usually
them.
quite access, I think, sitting in various areas, isn't it?
And they come to the classes and love them, and that way they ask. So it's been quite.
Is it the same for you, Liberty?
Yeah, and I worked in gyms where we had yoga classes previously. But I think that the immersion day is a really, really good tool for us as well, because I think that if somebody doesn't want to go on that, then that kind of says it all already.
Are the teachers paid for the immersion day? If so, who pays for
Depends. So it's up to the franchisee. So some franchisees pay for them to go, so they don't necessarily. They generally wouldn't pay them like a day rate to go for it, because it's it feels like it's a training day on your first day of a job kind of thing, or before you start. So it's almost like coming to an interview. But some franchisees choose to pay for them to go, and some franchisees, as in, will pay their train fare or whatever, and some say, do it yourself. And as Liberty says, if you're committed, then you'd be willing to do it. And it's something you're happy to invest in.
And I think that's worth saying also that that Hotpod do training. So, like for example, this weekend we've got an assist and adjust workshop, which has been put on by Hotpod. So Nick, who saw a picture of earlier, is going to come down and do a day for local teachers in our, like obviously our teachers in the area, or anyone that can come to us. And
that's free for them, which they wouldn't get any.
So even just to be able to. I don't know how many people are yoga teachers here, but just to have that offering of a company that actually really want to help you as
it's continuous training.
Yeah, it's really good. So, and that's completely free. So often the immersion day can be kind of seen as that little extra bit of training as well. So.